Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Dragon DT160. Now this does not have a brand name such as Halifar or Furybee. However, I have no doubt that it's from the same team that came up with this. This is the DT140. And by the way, when I reviewed this guy, I thought I was getting a production version. But I received this one with the DT160 3400 kV motors, and it was a nice combination. But when they got shipped out to the customers, they sent this motor, which is a 1408 3600 kV motor. So it's got a narrower stator, but it's a taller stator and higher in kV. So yeah, I mean, it might be a very similar setup to this, to be honest, looking at those statistics. So I wouldn't be too worried about that really, because this isn't going to be one of the quickest 3-inch models out there. It's not spec'd like the S140 or the GTM3. However, it is very cheap, and at the making of this video, it cost just £109 for the bind and fly. I think that's like $147, and that's with an XM Plus, and I think that's a really good deal. So, as I say, the motors are the 1408 3600 kV. The propellers, I think they are the Aldia RC 3050s. Now, they just came in a clear bag, but they certainly look like that prop. And I also got this bag of props as well. They look to be a copy of the Rotor X props, same ones that came with the DT140. So it's odd that they've given two different style of props there. So yes, it is a 160mm frame, and it's got a thicker arm there. So I think we've got 4mm carbon there against the 3mm of the DT140. It's a unibody though, and this one has got individual arms. So you could see that as a negative thing really. But yeah, there seems to be no play in the frame whatsoever. One thing that I'm questioning though is, why do we need a 160 size frame for a 3-inch? And if you look on here, I mean, just look at how much space there is there. I don't think they do a 3.5-inch tri-blade, and I think if they did, it would potentially fit on here, so that might be interesting. But for now, I think there's just 3.5-inch dual blades, so yeah, not really a need at the moment for a 160mm frame. So it's a stretched X there. We've got loads of space for a bigger propeller, so that might be interesting for the future. But right now, this guy is heavier than the DT140. So it is 156 grams without a battery. And with a battery, it's going to be the Tattoo 850 mAh 4S, and I wouldn't recommend going any smaller than that, really. I found the 650 mAh batteries, even the high C ones, cannot provide enough amps, and you get too much sag. So it weighs 258 grams with this battery, so it's over that magic figure that all of the regulators talk about. So that might be a reason to put you off this one. However, I'm really pleased to see that we have got the HGL RC F428 stack. It is a bulletproof stack in my experience. I've got about 9 of them, something like that. I've not had a single failure. I know there are people having failures out there. I just think that's bad luck, because I've had a really good experience with this. So we've got 28 amp BL Heli S 4-in-1 ESCs, and it's capable of D-Shot 600. Then we have got the Omnibus F4 flight controller with Betaflight on-screen display. We then have got the VTX on the top. It's the V2 that has smart audio. Smart audio is connected, or should I say tramp audio, and it is working. I have checked. Now, you can't get to the VTX at all. You can see through the top there, but if you're using smart audio, that doesn't matter. A problem that I did have though is that the XM Plus is under there somewhere, and you cannot reach the bind button. So what you have to do is undo these screws here and lift up the top. Be careful though, because this came with a cable tie on the linear antenna out the back there, and when you lift that up, it's going to rip this antenna off the micro UFL connector, and these are really brittle, so be very careful. And then yes, when you plug the USB connector into it there, the receiver does power up so you can bind to it. But I thought it would have been nice if we could access the bind button, because it's a pain taking this top off here. And also this here is one piece, so the top doesn't lift completely off either. So, you know, you could undo these screws at the bottom and lift it off that way. But the XM Plus is also cable tied on, which I kind of like, but it also means that it makes it more difficult to lift the top up because it's all connected here. And I wish these were just a little bit short as well. You know, they're at a funny angle, and I'm not a fan of the color scheme that they've used anyways, but you know that's a personal preference thing. We have got this camera plate at the top here. It's very reminiscent of the XJB145, isn't it? And yeah, so the actual standoffs here, they are shorter. So that was a good thing about the X140 and the DT140, is we have got 30mm here. This looks to be much smaller, so you're not going to fit a Runcam split mini in there, whereas these ones you can just about. Now the camera, I'm a little bit disappointed because it says on the website that it's a CCD camera. It's not. It's a CMOS camera, and it's also a 16:9 camera. Exactly the same as the DT140, although I think the camera is actually different there. We can see a lot more circuit board. I don't like these cameras. I'll be switching them out, but for the price, it's not bad. And if you're using 16:9 box goggles, which you might be if you're looking at buying into these cheap models, then that could be a good thing. Personally, I prefer a CCD camera or one of the good quality Runcam CMOS cameras rather than these cheap versions that don't perform as well. So we've got an XT30 connector there. You do actually get given a battery strap, and there's no silicone mat, but they have provided a silicone mat. I'll have to cut that up there. There's no LED or buzzer on here. Interestingly, it was set up to have D-Shot commands, so it had turtle mode in there set up, and it's also got beacon set up on the motors, but they have realized that people want to use buzzers. They have provided one, you know, so you could solder one up, because you can do that with this flight controller. But I'm seeing more and more people now move to these beacons, especially with these big motors. They can get quite loud, so I don't think I'm going to be fitting the buzzer. They've also provided a battery plate. I'm not going to be using that because it adds extra weight, and that is everything that you get in the box. So you'll need a battery, you'll need a transmitter, and you'll need some FPV goggles. The setup in Betaflight wasn't too bad. It didn't have air mode turned on, and it also didn't have arming on a switch, but it had everything else on a switch. Like, it had an angle, horizon, beeper, and even turtle mode was set up, so I've added that. The on-screen display was set up pretty nicely as well. I think the only thing I turned off was the warnings there, but everything else was in a pretty nice place, I thought. So let's get and take it for a flight and see how it performs. Alrighty, let's give this guy a quick throw about. So just stock PIDs that it came with, so stock Betaflight. You're not gonna get a good experience with those, so I have changed them a little bit. You're just gonna get oscillations with stock PIDs on a micro. I might still get that, but let's have a look. Looks okay to me, sounds okay. That's some pretty mean punch. Like I say, you know, it's not going to be a slouch whatsoever. And perhaps 80 to 88 mile per hour at a guess. Yeah, it's sounding really smooth. Okay, let's flick into acro. But really, yeah, no, you can't really go wrong with this setup. The power delivery, it feels smooth. Again, we'll take a look at how it performs FPV. see how noisy it is. You know, it's not too bad. Moderate, I would say. I wouldn't say it was quiet, but I wouldn't say it was overly loud either. Man, I absolutely love these micros. Shame about the camera though. I know I'm not going to like the camera. I just know. I don't know what they're playing at. They're doing it with 5-inch, they're doing it with everything. They're listing them as a CCD camera and they're a CMOS. I don't know why. I don't know why they're doing it. I don't know what they're playing at. Are they trying to trick people, or just don't they know? But I have to say, these price points, it's going to be hard to resist, I think. It's hard for me to resist, I know that much. Oh man, this is flying superb. By the way, if you're wondering where transmitter cam has gone, I can't key it out because of these yellow dandelions here. So it doesn't work. It will come back. I'm not complaining. We're getting some nice weather for once. Don't worry, it usually lasts about a day. Yeah. It's flying nice, and that's all I can say about it so far on the line of sight. Flicking it back into angle mode to see if we've got any drift, but I haven't seen any drift with this stack, so everything is fine. Okay, so let's take a look at some DVR footage, and just as I suspected, this camera is the biggest problem with this model. It was actually quite difficult to fly because the field of view is really narrow and it's a 16:9 camera, so when you try fly fast forward, all you can see is the ground, and that's with quite a hefty camera angle on there as well. So yeah, a 16:9 camera, you have a reduced vertical view anyways because it's cropped, and then with the fact that it's a really narrow field of view means that it's really difficult to fly. It's hard to judge how far away you are from objects, especially if you're used to like a 2.1mm lens, and also the camera's ability to adjust to changing light conditions is horrible, and that's not coming through on the DVR either. I think the screens in the Fatsharks are much more sensitive to when the ground lights up, but when the camera was pointed to the ground, which was a lot of the time, all I was seeing was just a complete whiteout. And yeah, I didn't even know if I was going to get any of these speed runs because I have a limited field of view on my speed trap. But look at that, 91 miles per hour. This is a fast machine, and I've no doubt that if I could get a better camera angle, it might even go quicker than that. But it does seem like in this flight that it did sort of top out at around about 90 miles per hour, so faster than I thought, but just like I thought as well, it's not up there with the quickest of the Skyzone S140 and the GTM3. And I think it's a real shame. There's a little bit of noise on the camera as well. Now that either could be because it's just a poor quality camera, or it could actually be noise from the system. Now this is the V2 stack, and I know the HLRC provides a little low ESR capacitor, which was not included in this package that I've received. So I'm definitely going to be switching the camera out anyways, so we'll see if the noise is actually being caused by, you know, the poor components on the camera, or if it's being caused by the stack. And if that is the case, it's an easy fix. It's just a low ESR capacitor on the battery lead, you know, very easy fix. It would have been nice if they had included it though, and you know, you get that with this stack, so there's a good chance that they just, you know, threw it away, which I think would be a shame, unless they've got a deal with HGLRC and, you know, they get a bit cheaper if they don't include the capacitor, but I think they should have. So, you know, the positives, it flies really nice. I got a really good tune out of it, so I will give you my PIDs. And yeah, I think for the price, I think people will go for it, but I would really recommend that you switch out the camera. If you fly fairly level and straight, so you're getting the sky and the ground in, then I got a better picture like now. But the minute that I either pitched the copter up or down, it was just a complete whiteout in the goggles. I'm not sure why the DVR is picking up better. It might be just that the screen on my computer is better at adjusting to those lighting conditions, but man, I really couldn't see where I was going through the Fatsharks. I adjusted the brightness, the contrast on the Fatsharks, and yeah, when I was looking at the ground like this, everything was just white. So yeah, I can't say it was enjoyable from that perspective, but I love the motor combination. I love the stack, the VTX, everything, even the propellers. It was a good combination, and you know, there's a bit of a waste going on the frame there, but you know, if some 3.5-inch props come out, then you know, this could take it, so that would be interesting. Oh, the RSSI is also set up on channel 16, so you'll need to bind channels 1 to 16 in order to get that. You can see, and that was already set up. The only thing I removed was just the warnings there, and if you're not using turtle mode, remove it, because where the aux channel sits right in the middle, it will sit on the setup that they have given and it won't arm, so I removed that. But there you go. Yeah, a fine copter except for the camera. I'll put a link in the description if you wish to get one. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.